In medieval England, a small village became the center of a mystery people would never forget. One day, without warning, two strange children appeared out of nowhere. They looked like brother and sister, and from the very moment they were discovered, the villagers were terrified, for one reason. The children's skin was green, not pale, not dirty. Their entire bodies carried a strange green tint, as if the color itself had soaked into their skin. At first, people believed the children were sick, maybe poisoned, maybe suffering from some unknown disease. But as time passed, the story became even stranger. The children could not understand a single word the villagers said, and the language they spoke could not be understood by anyone. But the most unsettling part was where they were found. It was not an ordinary pit. It was a deep trap dug into the ground to catch wolves. The very trap that gave the village its name, Woolpit. And years later, after the surviving girl learned English, she finally revealed the name of the place she claimed to come from, the land of St. Martin, a world with no sun, a place covered in endless dim green light. Even now, hundreds of years later, this story remains one of the strangest mysteries in English history. Where did the children really come from? Why was their skin green? And if the girl truly survived and later had descendants, then even today, someone you pass on the street may still carry her blood. The story begins in 12th century England. The events took place in a small village in Suffolk, Woolpit, a quiet countryside village that still exists today. But the name Woolpit hides a darker meaning. Wolf pit, wolf trap. Long ago, the villagers dug deep pits into the ground to catch wolves. The traps were meant to protect livestock, and according to local history, those traps became the reason the village was called Woolpit. The day the children appeared was during harvest season. The villagers were working in the fields, gathering crops like any ordinary day. Then suddenly, something strange happened. People heard a sound coming from the edge of the village. It was not an animal. It was not the wind. According to historical accounts, it sounded like children crying. The villagers followed the sound, and when they looked down into one of the wolf pits, they froze. Inside the trap were two children, a boy and a girl. Both appeared very young. Both looked completely terrified. But what shocked the villagers most was their skin. It was clearly not normal. Their faces, their hands, their necks, every visible part of their bodies carried a greenish color, as if they had never seen sunlight in their lives. Their clothing was just as strange. Historical records describe fabrics and stitching unlike anything the villagers had ever seen before. The children clung tightly to each other. Whenever someone moved closer, they flinched. They kept looking around in panic, like children trapped inside a world they did not recognize. And on that day, the villagers pulled something far stranger than wolves out of the trap. Two mysterious children with green skin. The villagers eventually brought the children into the village. The children looked starving. People offered them bread, meat, warm soup, water. But the children refused to eat anything. They only stared at the food, as if they did not even recognize it. The villagers became confused, and soon that confusion turned into fear. Whenever someone spoke to the children, they answered in a strange language no one had ever heard before. It was not Latin. It was not French. It did not resemble any nearby language spoken at the time. Nobody in the village could understand the children, and the children could not understand anyone around them. Whenever people questioned them, they only stared back with frightened eyes. If someone raised their voice, the children trembled. According to the records, they became even more anxious after sunset. In medieval Europe, anything unexplained quickly became associated with fear. Witches, curses, demons. People feared what they could not understand. Strange skin, unfamiliar clothing, an unknown language. Children discovered inside a wolf trap. Everything about them pushed the villagers toward terrifying conclusions. Some people whispered that the children might not even be human, but the children showed no signs of aggression. In fact, they seemed completely helpless. They looked less like monsters and more like children who had lost everything familiar to them. And slowly, the villagers began to wonder something even more disturbing. What if these children were not simply lost? For several days, the children refused to eat almost anything. The villagers grew worried. At this rate, both children might starve to death. People brought them bread, meat, fruit, soup, but the children rejected all of it. Then one day, someone brought fresh green beans, and for the first time, the children reacted. The moment they saw the beans, they suddenly rushed toward them. The villagers thought they had finally found food the children recognized. But what happened next was even stranger. The children did not know how to eat them. More specifically, they did not seem to understand how the beans worked. According to the historical accounts, the children grabbed the bean pods and began crying. The food was right in front of them, yet they did not know how to open it. The villagers stood there in confusion. Then a farmer stepped forward. He took one of the bean pods, peeled it open himself, and showed the children the beans inside. And instantly, everything changed. The children began eating desperately, as if they had not eaten properly in a very long time. After that day, the children survived almost entirely on beans. They still refused bread. They refused meat. Most foods were rejected immediately. Only beans seemed familiar to them, and that made the villagers even more uneasy. Why did the children not know how to open the pods? Why did they recognize the beans inside, but nothing else? And in the land of St. Martin, was that the only kind of food they had ever known? As time passed, the girl slowly began adapting to the village. She started observing people, imitating their behavior. Her fear slowly faded, but the boy was different. As the days passed, he became weaker and weaker. And soon, the villagers would witness the saddest part of the story. After arriving in the village, the boy never seemed healthy. At first, people believed he was simply exhausted. They assumed the strange environment had overwhelmed him. But as time passed, his condition became noticeably worse. He could barely eat. His body became thinner every day. And according to the records, there came a point where he could barely stand on his own. Nobody understood why. Was it illness? Extreme fear? Or had he already been weak before arriving there? No one could explain it. And eventually, not long after the children were discovered, the boy died. The villagers were horrified. A child with strange green skin, an unknown language, and a death nobody could understand. Soon dark rumors began spreading through the village. Some believed the children were cursed. Others called them demons, something that had entered the human world by mistake. But the surviving girl was different. As time passed, she slowly began learning the villagers' language. At first, she could only speak a few simple words, but little by little, she became capable of holding conversations. And finally, the villagers asked the question they had wanted, answered from the very beginning. "Where did you come from?" And that was when the girl revealed the most unbelievable part of the story. The girl eventually revealed the name of her homeland, the land of Saint Martin. She claimed there was no sun there. The world was always dark, covered in a dim green light. According to her, there was no clear difference between day and night. Everything appeared shadowy and unclear, like a world trapped in permanent twilight. The villagers could not understand what she meant, but what disturbed them most was how calmly she described it. She did not sound like someone inventing a fantasy. She spoke as if she were describing a real place she had once lived. Then she described something even stranger. One day, she and the boy heard a loud sound. Some records describe it as the ringing of bells. The children followed the sound, and eventually they entered a deep underground passage, a dark tunnel. The girl claimed that after passing through it, they suddenly found themselves somewhere unfamiliar, near Woolpit. The villagers were left speechless. Was the girl lying? Or had she truly come from somewhere beyond the human world? Nobody knew. But one detail continued to disturb them. The girl never once changed her story. She never hesitated, never appeared uncertain. It was as if the land of Saint Martin remained completely real in her memory. And from that moment on, people began wondering whether the children had truly come from somewhere else entirely. As time passed, the story of the Green Children spread throughout England, and people began creating their own explanations. One of the most famous theories was the underground world theory. Some believed the children came from a hidden land beneath the human world, a place without sunlight, a world lit only by strange, dim light. And somehow, the children had crossed into the human world through underground tunnels. But others searched for more realistic explanations. Some historians suggested the children may have been foreign refugees who became lost. At the time, immigrant communities from Flanders were known to exist in England. That could explain the unfamiliar language, the strange clothing, even the children's fear. Their unusual skin color also led to medical theories. Some researchers believed the green skin may have been caused by severe malnutrition. Iron deficiency, in particular, can sometimes create a pale greenish appearance in the skin. Modern medicine has proposed another possibility as well: arsenic poisoning. Long-term exposure to arsenic can cause abnormal skin discoloration. Some researchers believe the children's appearance may have been linked to that condition. But even with scientific explanations, people still struggle to answer one question. Why did the children remember the land of Saint Martin so clearly? Why did they speak a language nobody recognized? And why has this story survived for hundreds of years? Over time, even more extreme theories appeared: alien contact, parallel worlds, interdimensional travelers. Of course, none of these theories can be proven. But one fact remains undeniable. The story of the Green Children refused to disappear. If anything, the mystery only became stranger as time passed. The surviving girl slowly began changing. According to the records, the most noticeable difference was her skin. At first, it carried the same strange green color as the boys. But over time, that color gradually faded, especially after adapting to an English diet. Bread, meat, ordinary food. As her eating habits changed, the green color reportedly disappeared almost completely. That is why many researchers believe malnutrition may have played a major role in her appearance. But the mystery did not end there. The girl was eventually given the name Agnes, and according to historical records, she later married into a family connected to Richard Barr, a royal official and political figure of the time. She even had children. On the surface, it appeared she had become part of ordinary human society. But certain records describe Agnes in unusual ways. Some writers claimed she remained bold, unusually outspoken, and at times strangely unpredictable. Her personality reportedly stood out from the expectations placed on women during that period. And according to some accounts, it seemed as though she never fully forgot the place she came from, even after the green color disappeared. Even after learning human language, some people believe there was always something slightly unfamiliar about her, and perhaps that is what makes this story so unsettling. Because the skin changed, the language changed, but nobody could say for certain whether Agnes ever truly became fully human in the eyes of the people around her. Even now, hundreds of years later, people still remember this story. Some dismiss it as folklore, an exaggerated medieval legend, or a misunderstanding involving sick children. But others believe the villagers truly witnessed something impossible: children with green skin, a language nobody could understand, and stories about a strange world called the Land of St. Martin. But perhaps the most disturbing part is this: the surviving girl did not vanish. She lived among ordinary people. She married. She had children. She became part of English society, which means that even today, someone walking through England may still carry the blood of the green girl. And if the story was true, then one terrifying question still remains. Were they simply lost children? Or did they come from somewhere humanity was never meant to see? If this story left you wondering, the next one is waiting for you. Subscribe and stay with us.